Peace, something we are all seeking and yearning for. Peace, something we were once indigenous to. Peace, something we have lost along our way. Our way to obtaining knowledge of self. The knowledge of our ancestors who were removed from their natural state. The knowledge of our people who refused to be oppressed. In our journey, we lost our grip on peace. In a society of pressure, stress, and traumas, we have become comfortable with holding on to the burdens of fear and anxiety, family secrets buried in our DNA. Change within is our only way back to peace. Peace in our communities, peace in our families, peace within ourselves. A major change in our thinking, in our actions, in our existence is needed. A non-negotiable change. Welcome to the revolution with Sister Talibah.
This is an injustice.
Hey, peace, y'all. Can y'all hear me? Y'all know what I'm about to say. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Okay. Peace, everyone. Okay, thank you, little mama. Okay, let me properly greet you all. Peace, no name. Peace, little mama. Peace, Taz. Peace, Anna. No, you are not late. I am. I ran a few minutes behind. My apologies. Peace, Salty Chef. How are you? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Peace, Sassy Shay. And Sassy Shay, I got to get with you after the show. I'm going to message you. Peace, Karen Malone. Peace to everybody joining. Excuse me for being a few minutes late. I didn't have any struggles or anything. I just ran a few minutes behind. So I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to continue coming into the chat. And then we're going to get started. And then go ahead and share this live. And I'm about to share on my Facebook page. Let me throw on some music real quick before we get started. Let me see if I can remember where the music is at. I don't know why they didn't do it this time, but I'm gonna tell the story of violence. All right, let me go ahead and get started. How's everyone doing today? I missed y'all last Sunday, but I did do two tidbits this past week. So I hope y'all caught those. Um, Let me go ahead and get started. So, first off, I had to make a correction. So, when I did my flyers and put it out on social media, the title read Violence is as American as Apple Pie. And that is a direct quote from H. Rap Brown. The correct quote is Violence is as American as cherry pie. And in my mind, I remembered him saying apple pie, but I corrected that and put a new flyer out. I don't know if anyone caught it. I made corrections in the comment section because I didn't want to put out misinformation. So the correct quote from H. Rap Brown, formerly known as H. Rap Brown, is violence is as American as cherry pie. And I decided to change my topic for today because I was really going to focus on the topic of moral injury. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that term. Well, maybe I'll do that another time. But because of recent events that's in the news, as well as something that my family personally experienced this past week, I decided to focus on violence. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. And so I wanted to start off since I'm using Imam Jamil Abdullah Al Amin um, quote. I wanted to just give a brief background of him. Again, he is formerly known as H. Rap Brown. He is a prominent or was a prominent civil rights activist in the 1960s. He was involved in organizations such as SNCC and the Black Panther Party. He organized Black voter registration and civil rights meetings, and he wrote his autobiography, Die Nigger Die. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying the N word, but that is the title of the book. He also authored Revolution. Let me see. Revolution by the book, The Rap is Live. So I never read that book, Revolution by the book, but I did have his autobiography, and it was an awesome read. And I don't know what I did with that book, if somebody took it and, borrowed it, but I no longer have it. But that is a book that everyone should read. I feel like everyone should have a few books in regards to the Black Panther Party. It's a lot of beneficial information in there, and it's good to know more about other, um, what do I want to call them? Liberation leaders, liberation fighters. That's still not the word I want to use for them. But the more assertive warriors in the Black community. That's important to know because, in our society, they continue to feed us nonviolence and promote Dr. King, and they give us a watered down version of Dr. King. So, with that being said, I wanted to go ahead and I hope this works. And play the YouTube of, and I don't think that's going to work. So there is a short YouTube speech of his. It's literally like 30 seconds that I was going to play. And I'm a little nervous about messing around with StreamYard right now. So that is the title. Violence is as American as cherry pie. You can look it up on YouTube, and it's literally 30 seconds on YouTube, very quick. But he is just pretty much saying how the American government um, is full of hypocrisy, is full of hypocrites when they shame people that they have been oppressing for fighting back. And you know that whole switcheroo where it's like the fox is asking his prey, why are you so violent against me? And we see that today um, within our politicians, right? People forget, people forget or want you to forget the evil that they have done to you and then act like a victim when you fight back, when you physically fight back, and when you start to call them out. So that's basically what he was saying, that America has no right to um, to call out anyone that is violent against her when they have been the most violent. And so Imam Jamil Abdullah Al Amin, he embraced Islam in the 1970s. Um, during his time as, and he's still a Muslim. He's still, I believe, he's still considered an Imam. He was focused on promoting justice and peace in his community. He established the National Jumat, a Muslim community in Atlanta, Georgia. He is currently a political prisoner serving a life sentence after a shooting incident outside his store in Atlanta in 2000. And since his imprisonment, he has experienced severe human rights violations. Um, from what I can remember um, from his autobiography, he knew, I remember reading that he knew that because he had got out of a situation with the authorities, they were trying to pin something on him. So he got out of that situation, but he knew that the American government would come back for him. And so um, he just didn't know when. I remember specifically reading that in that book. And so his family, his supporters, uh, Muslims have been trying to help him get out. Right now, I know he is, his health is not well. I believe he has cancer. Um, and so that's all that I know about him as of right now. So I just wanted to give that background information on Brother L. I mean, and then we're going to get into proving why America is violent, why America has a culture and a history of violence. We're going to prove that in this presentation. So, America's violent culture, past and present. And of course, we got to kick it off with the colonization of America, the genocide of the indigenous population, which led to the transatlantic slave trade and enslavement of African, Black, and indigenous people. And then there was also the discrimination of so called inferior Europeans, such as the Irish, Italians, and Polish populations. And then, Black people went through the Jim Crow era with the racist laws and discrimination, etc. And even let's back up to the enslavement, the violent. And first, let me say this: any um, white people that are listening, watching the show, this is not me beating up on anyone white. This is just um, me stating the facts, right? And so I don't want anyone in the chat or anyone watching to feel bad for being white, because I have seen that comment um, on this platform before. And what I want you to focus on is being the best soul that you can be the best human that you can be. That's what's important. So I just want to clear that now. I don't want to move forward with this presentation being about beating up on white people or um, damning them because of what um, their ancestors did or their elders did. Okay? Be the best person that you can be, regardless of what color you are, whomever you are, however you were created. Be the best version of yourself. Okay? Peace, Deborah Luna. Peace to you. And so during the enslavement, and I remember this as a little girl in school, I remember having books in regards to the enslavement of Black people. And I remember seeing real pictures of the lynchings of Black people. And I remember seeing groups of white people having a picnic. That's where that term comes from, around that dead body. That was a whole show, a whole um like a form of entertainment for the whole family to come and eat and watch someone being hung by a tree. I vividly remember seeing that in books as a child. Um, so the violence against the indigenous people, the violence against Black people was severe. The rape of Black women, even the rape of Black men, um, the beatings, the cutting open of Black women's stomachs, pregnant Black women's stomachs, and tearing a baby out, stomping on the baby's head, feeding babies, Black babies, to alligators, etc., etc., etc. Cutting off Black genitals, cutting specifically penises. All of that occurred. And then you wonder why they're trying to hide that truth about themselves or about their past. So that is why they're trying to get rid of, and I can't remember what you call that right now, but they're trying to get rid of all of those, all of that history out of the books. They don't want their children, their descendants, to find out um, the evils and the wickedness, the deviance of their ancestors. Because you know what? That has to be healed. That type of deviance has to be healed. Someone has to apologize for that. And that really is how you begin healing. Now, see, I wasn't even planning on going here, but I am. I remember watching or seeing a clip of on the Oprah Winfrey show, and it was an old clip where there was a Black family and they were sitting with a descendant of the Black family's plantation masters family. I hope I said that correctly. So it was a white man whose ancestors owned families, the Black family, their ancestors. And he apologized to them for what his family had did. And you know what? I don't know if he gave them reparations. I don't remember that part. I just remember the apology. And sometimes that's all that's needed is um, an apology. And that also reminds me, and y'all have heard me talk about this before, but it reminds me of the forgiveness technique, the Hawaiian um, form of forgiveness, Ho'oponopono. Um, you apologize on behalf of your ancestors, on behalf of your family. If my family or if I have ever harmed or hurt you or your family, your elders, your ancestors, please forgive me. Healing has to start somewhere. And why wouldn't you want to heal? There should be an open apology by this government to the indigenous people. There should be an open apology to Black African Americans in this country. In fact, this country owes the world an apology because of its global violence, which I'm going to get into somewhere in this presentation. But America is a society that is full of violence, it is full of wickedness, and you really have to look for the good. I don't want to make this doom and gloom, but it is a society of fear, of anxiety, of stress, and we literally have to fight ourselves out of that. We have to fight ourselves out of that, or else we're going to get caught in that cycle of gloom, that cycle of depression, which they want you to be depressed because when you're depressed, you're vibrating at a low level and you're not functioning at your highest potential. You forget who you are. You forget, your spirituality. You forget everything that's good about you and you become reliant on their so-called medicine, their pharmaceutical companies. You become reliant on the fear that they're dishing out to you. And you believe the hype. You believe the hype on what they're selling you out here. You believe the hype about COVID 19. You believe the hype about a lot of things that are going on. But let me continue. Okay, where my mouse go? So the colonization of America, right? So that is America's beginning is the foundation of America is violence. It is violence. It is rape. It is inhumane. Quit believing the Christopher Columbus hype. Christopher Columbus was a terrorist and committed genocide. That's what you're celebrating come Thanksgiving. I don't know another way to put it, but you're celebrating someone's demise, including Black people's demise. Nothing wrong with celebrating family. That should be celebrated every single day. All right. Okay. So, y'all know with my show, solutions. We just not going to point out the problem, but we're going to come up with solutions. And if the solutions that I come up with do not suffice or are not good enough or can be expanded, y'all know what to do in the chat. Put it in the chat and I'm going to read it. So, solutions to colonization. And this is an ongoing thing. Solutions do not just happen overnight, right? So, I say educate yourself on America's origin. There are two books, and there's actually a third book that a really good book, and I can't remember the title. And I was trying to Google it, but it wouldn't come up. But I had this book, Lies My Teacher Told Me, and they came before Columbus. Educate yourself on on the origins of America. And then after you educate yourself, teach your descendants the truth because all of that is being taken away right now. Address how colonization has affected your ancestors and current family. Connect past traumas to current traumas. Traumas are generational, pathological traumas. They keep going, they keep getting passed down. Who is going to be bold enough to heal it? Who is going to be bold enough to address it? Somebody has to stand up in your family and address this dysfunction that's going on, self hatred that's going on, fear that's going on. It might as well be you. Also, I say rethink participating in holiday and cultural celebrations that promote colonization. Because let's face it, that's insanity. Why are you celebrating a system that was never meant for your benefit? It was never meant for your good. It was never meant for your greatness. And here you are celebrating it, upholding it, investing your hard earned money into it. That's insanity. That is pure insanity. Okay, I'm going to go into the chat. I hope y'all got some good suggestions. Anyone that has suggestions on solutions to colonization, some probably going to say flee the country. And I ain't mad at that either. Let me try to go back. Thank you, Deborah Luna, for the $5 donation to A10 News Media Group. We appreciate you. Okay. No name. Glad to have you back. The tidbits have been enlightening. Thank you so much. They are spontaneous. Sassy Shay say facts. Let's see. Peace to Lanita Murray. Thank you for joining us today. Peace to Deborah Luna. I love Miss Deborah Luna. Salty Chef. White people got to recognize and learn from our racist history. I agree. Salty Chef. Canada has an awful history with indigenous people as well. And you know what, Salty Chef? We were raised, I'm from the 80s. We were raised to believe that Canada is that safe cousin, is America's safe cousin, or black people's safe cousin. I'll put it like that. That's where freedom is, in Canada. I've been hearing some stuff about Canada, some wild stuff. Sassy Shay said they did that to George Washington Carver. No name, dehumanization. Yes, no name, critical race theory, CRT. Thank you so much. That's what they're pushing now. Sassy Shay, I believe it's coming full circle now in the great rest. I ain't going agrees. No name says healing has to start somewhere. Okay. Any solutions on colonization? Marcia A. Talbert, peace. Marcia, good afternoon, evening, Sister Talibah, and all in the chat. I'm driving, so I won't be able to interact. Please be safe, Marcia. Please be safe. Everyone is telling you good evening. 810 is in the chat. I don't know who that is, but peace, 810. Um, no name. There is a lot of colonization in religion. Dr. Jeremiah Wright, Obama's former pastor, said Sunday is the most segregated time in America. Very interesting. I ain't going said exactly at Talibah. We was raised to believe Canada could do no wrong. You ain't lying. All right, Anna. Solution: we must embrace cultural diversity, foster equitable relationships. Yeah, I agree with that. And oh, like she said something else. Among groups, avoid imposing our beliefs on others, acknowledge past wrongdoings, and learn from history to shape a better future. Let me ask this question. In regards to colonization, we know, and some people, many people don't agree to this. I've learned that just from being a social worker and having certain colleagues, right? Um, but a lot of people don't believe that white privilege exists. And what I find is that some of my colleagues, when they hear white privilege, they equate it to economics, just economics. And they don't understand how they are privileged enough to where they can safely drive a vehicle without being pulled over for being black, right? Driving while black. And that they can exist in society. Um, they can safely exist in society without being labeled as suspicious. Okay. So we need to go deep in that. And I wish a lot of white people would get that. There are many that do, that I have encountered, and that have become good allies in regards to this conversation. But there are some that don't want to accept that. They do not want to accept that. And in fact, I've had a former colleague, tell me that they're tired of hearing about racism. And my response to her was, really? Well, imagine being tired of dealing with racism, with being a victim of racism. And she couldn't respond back to me after that. But you know what Anna said, we must embrace cultural diversity. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem for, I'm going to say, more so people, and I hate to use this term, people of color. Um, um, but you know, I don't have a problem with cultural diversity, but at the same time, I want to, as a black woman, I want, I can embrace cultural diversity. I have no problem with that. At the same time, I would like to see black people have their own groups, their own organizations. Some of y'all may disagree with me, and y'all may think, well, what is she talking about? But a lot, if not all of our groups are infiltrated. Like the NAACP is not an all straight African American organization. Jewish people control that group. So I think like, and let me go a little bit deeper. And I really wasn't planning on going this deep. But from what I have seen, how can I say this? I feel like when something big happens, like nationally, right? Other cultures, other populations come to Black people and they expect our alliance because of all that we have gone through in this country. But then we don't get the same in return, not in the majority. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let me keep going. I read Anna's Salty Chef. As a nation, we in Canada have a lot of positive, but we live on stolen land from Indigenous people also. Yes, Salty Chef. Um, I ain't going to say he did not know that, Salty. Anna, it has nothing to do with economic. It has to do with the fact that it is ingraining them or ingraining them that they are supposed to have. That doesn't mean they do. It is all on purpose. It's just, it's what they know. No name. People tend to never believe what they haven't experienced. It's not until they become a victim of said circumstance that their minds are changed. Great point. Salty Chef, instead of indigenous massacre of indigenous people like in America, Canada worked out treaties with Forest Nation indigenous bands, which were never honored. Oh, First Nation indigenous. Gotcha, Salty Chef. Anna, the irritating part is when we naturally do it for them and not even recognize that we're doing it, but treat each other like crap. You trying to take this conversation somewhere else, Anna. That's a whole other life. I feel you. No name. If you aren't living it, of course, it's not going to make sense. That's where emotional capacity comes into play. Sympathy and understanding outside the confines of experience. Sassy Shay agrees. Okay, y'all got some comments. Lil Mama. Surprisingly enough, there's quite a few people who are tired of hearing about it. They also have another name for it called Black Fatigue. Uh oh. Sassy. I saw a TikTok earlier where the woman said there is no white privilege for most white people. Their obstacles are just not tied to their skin color. Yes. Anna, thank you for reading it the correct way. I'm talking text. I understand, Anna. It's no problem. Taz, everyone needs to respect and acknowledge one another's personal experiences when it comes to cultural differences. I agree, Taz, and that's like one of my main things. Regardless of the conversation, my whole point is I don't have to be right. I just need you to understand my perspective. I need you to understand where I'm coming from. I'm really big on understanding. I think that's like an important uh, human characteristic to be able to understand because so many people focus on invalidating one's feelings. Just because you feel a certain type of way doesn't mean you're going to be correct, right? But it's really important to try to understand. And if you don't understand, fine, say that. And y'all can continue to have this dialogue, right? But at least try to understand. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes. I like that. Anna says, I'm indigenous. I have over 7 generations in this country. I was raised by a Black American man, and in my culture, we have African as well. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So that was a healthy, good conversation. That's what I'm talking about. We solution based over here, okay? Come with the solutions, y'all. And I meant to tell y'all that each point of violence that I'm pointing out, right, in America's history and present condition, I chose to do it in alphabetical order. So if my points may seem a little bit all over the place, don't mind that. Just stay focused. Okay. Environmental genocide, terrorism, and violence. Let's talk about this, y'all. So, my examples of environmental genocide, terrorism, and violence. Of course, the city of Flint water crisis, Benton Harbor water crisis, also, that was on the west side of Michigan after the city of Flint water crisis, petrochemical pollutants. And the example of this comes from Cancer Alley, Louisiana. I had never heard of this. Cancer Alley. So let me back up and let me put on my bifocals because I'm trying to act like I don't need them. And I'm lying to myself. Okay. Petrochemical pollutants are released into the atmosphere by factories. And so the people that are mostly affected by these chemicals are factory workers, of course, and the neighborhoods that these factories are in. So, Cancer Alley is an 85-mile stretch between New Orleans and Baton Rouge in Louisiana. 150 oil refineries and petrochemical plants are there, and they have higher than average rates of cancers among people. Let's see. Another example of environmental genocide, uranium mining. And this is something that the Navajo Nation and indigenous people has experienced. So, first, uranium mining is essential for the operation of nuclear power plants. It causes damage in communities where uranium is mined, and it creates radioactive and hazardous solid waste byproducts called tailings and liquid waste byproducts called raffinates. And this happened to the Navajo Nation from the 1940s through the 1980s. And it's in some parts of Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. And they also have experienced high rates of cancer, kidney disease, and other health problems. Another example of environmental violence, the use of pesticides, specifically atrazine. I think I said that correctly. Atrazine. This is the world's most widely used pesticide, and it has been proven that it has changed the sex of male frogs into females. And this is also something that they put in our water supply. Very interesting. Genetic modification of food. How many of you have heard of Appeal Sciences by Bill Gates? That is actually some of their products, their produce, their fruits, and vegetables are inside of our local Meyer in Flint on Center Road, and I would not eat that. They have a website, it's and they're showcasing it, marketing it as a plant based, like it's a film on the food, and it's supposed to be plant based, and the objective is to preserve, I'm gonna say, the life of the product. I wouldn't eat that, y'all. From what I hear is you can't take it off, you can't wash it off. Bill Gates is also someone that is behind a lot of deviant behavior, like population control. I forget the name of his company, or should I say nonprofit organization, one of them, when they were in India, and I believe they were kicked out. That's they were pushing vaccinations to those people, and they were harming them, and they eventually got kicked out of India. Bill Gates is also behind COVID-19 vaccinations as well. So look it up for yourself. That's also another thing. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. This information that I'm giving to you, you can easily find yourself. Look it up for yourself and educate yourself. The last example that I chose to use for environmental terrorism and violence and genocide is chemtrails. To my knowledge, the government has not um, really acknowledge chemtrails for what they are. But chemtrails, when you look up in the sky, and they're usually out, I want to say during dawn, before the sun rises, because when you go out after dawn, you can see them flying way up in the sky, and the planes have a trail of chemicals behind them. So be cautious of that. Be conscious of that, because it is my belief that is how they make us sick. I believe that is how they also manipulate um, the population's behavior. You know, some cities are more violent than other cities. Okay. Um, when you see um, when a community experiences like a severe outbreak of something, just be mindful of that. Be mindful of that and do your own research. Now, let's go on to the solutions. Solutions to environmental violence. I say connect with your local community activists and grassroots organizations. Attend your city council meetings to learn what industrial companies are proposing to do business in your community. Invest in full water filtration systems and look for natural ways to heal your water source. One example I put is shungite. Shungite is actually a crystal, but dang it, I should have put one right here. But I have some in my house. They're crystal. They come from shungite, Russia, and when you hold them, it leaves like a coal residue. But shungite, if you put it in water, it's a whole process I have written down in one of my notebooks, but it does purify your water. You could see it purifying your water. It also has the ability of blocking radiation, EMF radiation from your electronics. So that was my example for that. Invest in plants that purify your home and workspace. Grocery shop at your local farmers market and health food stores, and grow your own food garden. What solutions do you all have to environmental violence? So what do you want to add to that? All right, no name say this is a mature conversation. Taz agrees. She likes healthy conversations. This Anna says this is the exact subject. I love to talk about environmental justice. Look up EPA. They no longer have no enforcement. It has been stripped. Thank you for that, Anna. Deborah Luna, I'm married to a Hispanic man and we've been married for 40 years. I definitely see the racial profiling. I bet you do, Deborah. Going back to that subject of racism, real quick, one of my former colleagues, a white woman, she married a black man who was an officer. And her children are biracial from another relationship, right? So she told me that every time she goes through a certain city, that when she's driving with her husband, the police pull them over because they're a mixed couple. And it's like it happens all the time. So she definitely sees the racism. And they don't care that he's a police officer or none of that. So she that just reminded me of that story that she told me. But thank you for sharing, Deborah. No Name says Palestine, Ohio is probably worse off than Flint. The news has stopped talking about it. Similar how they're trying to bury the narrative of Flint. And that's another thing. That's why I don't too much trust certain news medias. That's why we need platforms like A10 News Media Group that's going to give us the real stories, right? I was just telling my supervisor at work this past week that there is a lot of violence occurring in Flint uh, um, that's not being talked about on the local news channels. Like I'm literally learning. I had learned, and I shared this on a tidbit, that one of my clients was nearly killed in a crossfire gun. She got shot. She lost half her stomach. She lost a piece of her liver and spleen. She now has a stent um, in her heart. That girl, and she's young too. She's a baby and has two babies of her own. And when she called, or when she returned my phone call, and she told me, I was so shocked. I hadn't even heard about it on the news. And she lives in a very high risk neighborhood in Flint. And so I hadn't seen it. And it's quite a few stories that I could talk about that they have not talked about on the news. So it's a lot of things that's being blocked from us, a lot of truth that's being blocked for us. And it's a liability against our safety. Good point, no name. Little Mama says, follow the money. Karen Malone, my grandma, my mom's mom was supposed to have been a full blooded Cherokee. My dad's parents came here from Hungary. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Khadijah. Dick Gregory talked a lot about those his last years. Look up manganese. Girl, okay, Sister Khadijah. When I was a student at Eastern Michigan University in my late 20s, he actually came to the institution and he talked about this. And he was saying, he talked about manganese, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think this community was in Australia, and he talked about the community. I think it was a manganese um, plant or factory, and the people. were severely violent. They had like a 500% increase in homicides. And if I remember correctly, it's a community in Australia. Excellent point. Man, Baba Dick Gregory was one of a kind. That was a jewel. Anybody that is not familiar with his interviews, his lectures, please check him out on YouTube. He spills a lot about what America is doing. It's a lot to take on because when I first seen him at the college years ago, I went home and was like, well, what do I do now? Like, okay, it's clear that this government is working overtime and wickedness by hurting its civilians, right? But what can you do about it? How can you preserve yourself and your family? Thank you for your comment, Khadijah. Anna says, check out this documentary. It's called They Trying to Kill Us. Y'all remember that. They're trying to kill us. Sassy Shay, not to steer you off, but also controlling the weather. Yes, ma'am. Within the past month or so, I noticed that the weather reports would be totally off when usually it would be predicted with pinpoint accuracy. Yes. And I don't think it's by accident that we are getting all of this rain and all of this flooding. I believe it's called seeding that they do in the clouds, seeding, where they can manipulate the weather to rain. So that is something else that we should all look into. I hate to say it like this, but we're literally being attacked on all levels. Sister Talibah, this is from Lil Mama. What was that huge balloon that was flying through the United States from China really about? Girl, I forgot about that. Because they were trying to say it was like surveillance or something. I'm not sure. Mm. Sister Khadijah, he was adamant about it. There might still be videos on YouTube Real Black channel. Y'all check that out. Yes, Taz, cloud seeding. All right, I am loving y'all. Y'all are really into this. So let's go. Remember, y'all, we dealing with the facts. We dealing with truth. But we doing this to preserve ourselves, to protect ourselves, right? This is not to be, oh, we gonna die, we not gonna make it. No, we don't vibrate low like that. We need to know what's going on and we need to come together to protect ourselves. So let's go to the next example of violence in America. Well, global violence and all wars. America is an instigator, is a contributor to wars in other countries. The creation of so called third world countries. We drain countries of their valuable resources and we exploit the land and the indigenous peoples. Modern day colonization, power and control of other countries and their policies, creating vaccination programs in other countries, implementing pro American ideologies, educations, and religions. Now, let me go back. When I was doing this slide on this PowerPoint, I went back to my early years. I think I might have been a teenager or in my early 20s. Do y'all remember the show Real World on MTV? And then it was road rules where it was like Real World but on wheels and they would have to do these challenges. And then that show went I want to say like international. They started traveling international. And it was this one season, and I forget everybody's name, but this group on Road Rules, I think that's the name of the show, they went to Australia. And one of the challenges or what they had to do was to teach the indigenous people of Australia about Christopher Columbus. And this black man, I can see his face, but I can't remember his name. He fought against it. And they would of course they would get money for every challenge that they did, right? So this was part of their challenge. And in case no one knows this, or some people don't know this, the indigenous people of Australia are black. They're black skinned. Some have blue eyes and blonde hair, but they're black. And I think there's an island right off the coast of Australia called Tasmania. And I don't know, excuse me for not knowing this, but I don't know if the indigenous people are tribal, like they it's different tribes, but or if they call them, all of them are called Tasmanian. I can't remember that, but they went to a rural area, and they had these people like they were in European style, American style schools, and they wanted them to teach them about Christopher Columbus. How was Christopher Columbus a benefit to that community? What is the importance of teaching an indigenous people about Christopher Columbus? And this black man was like, he was pissed. But you know who was passive about it? It was this white guy and this white woman. And they were like a couple. And they were doing a challenge with the black guy. And they didn't see anything wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. And that's what I immediately thought of. Now, the power and control, that in itself is an example of power and control. And I know my close friends have heard me say this, but I am believing, I'm starting to really believe that one of the most dangerous errors, or some may say sins, in this world is power and control. When you find yourself in a position of wanting to control how other people think, how other people live, how other people move, how other people do whatever, what they say, it's something wrong with you. To me, that's starting to be witchcraft. Power and control. We all have free will here. We have the mental capacity to be our authentic selves. So if you cross and pass with anyone that wants to control you, get away from them ASAP. That is that is a form of enslavement. That is a severe form of enslavement. And power and control is all around us. And I'm not just speaking on government level, but I'm also speaking in personal relationships, work relationships, intimate relationships, friendships, family relationships, your mama, your daddy, your boo. Uh-uh. No, 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 no. Power and control, that is extremely dangerous. And to me, I'm starting to look at it as a form of witchcraft. That's my 2 cents on that. So, global violence, America has definitely done its part in global violence. And at some point, the energy that America puts out has to return, because that's just universal law. What you put out, you will receive. As above, so below. One day the chickens got to come home to roost. So, solutions to global violence: find out what and who your tax dollars are supporting. Rely on accurate news media for information, such as Africa.com, Al Jazeera, the African Diaspora on YouTube. And the African Diaspora, that's with Brother Phil Scott. He even has his own app for a nice low price, too. Instilling your children to not join the U.S. military. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes with that. because I do recognize that some people join the military, and I'm not knocking them, honestly, um, to have income and to travel the world and hope that they don't have to go to war. Become an active voice against global injustice. So, what are your solutions to global violence? I'm scrolling up. Okay. Sassy Shay sounds like what Anna was talking about with the reclassification of police reports. Sister Khadijah, he was adamant about it. There might still be video. Oh, I read that one already. Sorry, y'all. Taz says we need to question everything in these crazy and challenging times. Yes, ma'am. All right, Sister Khadijah, you remember that road rules and you remember that episode. Girl, when I can't remember how old I was. I think that was the early 2000s. So I was in my early 20s. But I was hot and I was pissed. I was pissed off. I could still see that brother face. He was heated, heated. I'm coming all the way over here to some other black people, and I got to teach them the same crap that was taught to me, that these people got me conditioned to believe, and now I know better. And you want me to recycle this trash? Mm-mm. Peace, Carolyn Hendricks. Sassy Shay agrees. This is witchcraft. Deborah Luna, I'll bet a lot of crime that comes through Hurley isn't handled accordingly, reporting crimes. That too. That too. Marcia, exactly, Sister Talibah. My parents taught us about the indigenous people of Australia. They are black and suffering the same fate of Native American tribes. Yes, ma'am. Taz, I'm hard headed. Nobody will ever silence or control me. Period, Taz. Period. Let's go back to that episode I had you on Speak Your Truth. We are supposed to use our voices. The energy of the throat is to purify and cleanse. No one should ever silence you. Not if you're speaking good, not if you're advocating for people, not if you're using your throat energy righteously, your throat chakra righteously, your words, your tongue righteously. It should be in a form of purification and cleansing. And that's what we need, more advocacy. Marcia, I am cracking up. You parked in your garage now. Interaction activated. Yes, ma'am. We're glad you made it safely. Sassy Shay says solution is to really focus on building community. Marcia Talbert, 45 out of 47 is trying to be a catalyst in wars. Oh, Trump is trying to be a catalyst in wars that don't even concern us. He's an instigat. I don't know what that is. Instigatat. I apologize that I'm jacking up that word. And then talks about the countries when they ask the U.S. for assistance. Is that supposed to be instigator? Yeah. And you know what? Somebody explained to me why the white South Africans were brought over here. I have a theory behind that. And they were trying to make it seem like the white Africans in South Africa were under attack and were being uh, killed, basically. But I do have a theory about that. Okay, let me. Uh-oh, I'm jumping ahead, y'all. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Anna, speak with people from those countries. Ask them how you can join the chat so you can get on and get the truth from the people. I love that you said that, Anna, because as a social worker, Before you jump into helping someone, you should ask them, how can I help you? Do you even want my help? Because a lot of people jump into helping communities that they are not from, and they end up doing more harm than good. And then they also end up being colonizers themselves. There is a such thing as toxic outsiders. Some of y'all don't like that term. That's too bad, because it's the truth. It is the truth. Toxic outsiders is a real cancer. You cannot you cannot come into or speak on a community or advocate allegedly for a community and then dog people out or do evil against the people, verbally plot against the people, or try to control what advocates work with whom. It's a lot of shenanigans going on, but you end up doing more harm than good. And then that's why specifically in Flint, we don't trust nobody. Anna, we are living in a time where they're controlling what we hear, you see. Wait a minute. We are living in a time where they're controlling what we hear and see, and NPR taken down, PBS taken down, and so many others. This is set up by design. Remember, we are all the rhythms are all different. Okay, I know you're doing that talk to text, but I understand what you're saying. They're really trying to hide the truth from us. Marcia, my father was lifelong military. He wanted to go to Iran, Iraq during the first Desert Storm. At 52 years old, the Air Force sent him to Ramstein in Germany. He was just happy to be in the fight. Wow. Loved it before it got scripted. Sister Talibah, that's a great point. Facts. Speak, Sister Talibah. Right here, doing more harm than good. And y'all, it's nothing wrong with calling that out because somebody got to. Somebody has to. You come with some respect or don't come at all. And focus on your own community. I hate to say it like that. We need outside help, but we need healthy and sincere and genuine and safe outside help. We don't need raggedy help. Marcia, my defining glory was in kindergarten when my classmate told me I was a radical. His father and my mother fought for civil rights and died. Beautiful. Anna, especially on how they thought by being missionaries, bring the people food, they were actually killing them because those people ate from the ground the things that they planted. Wow. No name, a lot of harmful people trying to disguise themselves as help. Deborah Luna, that missionary front. Karen Malone, preach it, sis. You nailing it. Born and raised here and I'll die here. 62 years old. Yes, ma'am, Miss Karen. Marcia, how can I help and do you want my help? Go a long way. I experienced that after the Eaton fire. Toxic outsiders, especially those making money off of our tragedy. For example, fire relief concert. Where's the money? Wow. And that's a real thing. And you can't never get tired of talking about that because Going back to, I think it was a tidbit I did, somebody had pointed out that people need to start vetting them. But we need to come to that agreement as a community, as a collective. It is intelligence, it's wisdom to vet people, to find out who they are, or else you'll have somebody tearing your community further down than it already is. Go back to the civil rights movement and remember how many, if not all of our organizations was infiltrated by government officials. Yeah, can nobody deny this. So you have to vet people in the best manner that you can to make sure people are coming in with good intentions. And if something, an issue arises, a deviant issue arises, a negative issue arises, it must be addressed. You can't ignore that. If you're serious about turning this community around, turning your community around, then you need to vet a lot of these people, even the insiders. We got enough toxic insiders. We got enough raggedy souls on the inside within the city limits. You think we going to survive when toxic outsiders call themselves coming in to help? That don't even make sense. That's not wisdom. That's like inviting them into your house. Now that's domestic violence. That's domestic violence. Why would I implement violence on myself? If I know somebody is toxic, why would I invite that hellfire into my home and try to work with it? Somebody, y'all make that make sense for me. You can't because it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. And if something does not make sense, then it's not true, according to Judge Judy. If it don't make sense, it's not true. Boy, now that's a mental health issue. People, I don't know what's going on. But some of these people are loyal to the wrong people, and then they want you to be loyal and crazy right along with them. Not this sister. If it does not make sense, it's not true. Woo. And with Marcia's comment, that's social work 101. How can I help you? As many referrals as I have gotten over the years, and then in the case of domestic violence, which I'm gonna talk about later on, um, if a client does not want to do something, you can't force them to do it. There's no compulsion in social work. You can't force anyone to do something. I don't care how good it is. Because for one, some people are not ready. They're simply not ready for change. And no matter how positive, no matter how good it is. And that really is that's an issue. Some people are scared of change, even when it's in the positive. That's how knee deep, neck deep, a lot of our people are in trauma, in pathological trauma. Even when a good resolution is in front of them, they're too scared to take it because they have normalized chaos. They have normalized fear. They have normalized living at a low vibrational level. And to actually do good, to elevate, that's scary. That's scary to them because can I maintain it? Because I'm used to getting an eviction notice every month. I'm used to applying for assistance for my consumer energy bill every month. I'm used to having to sell my food stamps so I can pay a bill or get whatever I need, toilet tissue, paper towel, soap. I'm used to putting in a referral to this agency, calling this referral for this, doing that, doing whatever. I'm used to the struggle life. That's normal for me. Do y'all know how many people are like this in your community? I'm not just talking about Flint. Mm-mm. Woo. And me as a social worker, I have been there too many times where I have a list of resources and people get scared. People get scared. It really bothers me when I get a client and they are residing in an inferior housing conditions and they're paying their rent, but they're too scared to get their landlord in trouble. So when I suggest, let me put this referral to legal services, they get scared. And then I'm calling them, calling them, calling them. And of course, I explain to them, listen, I'm going to follow your lead because you are in charge of your life. You tell me what you need me to do to support you. Because everybody that I work with know that this sister, I ride with mine. I ride with my clients until they want to get off the ride. Okay? So if a client is showing resistance or they just flat out tell me that they don't want any more resources, I respect that because everyone is not on that level of change. And that's sad. I don't dog them out. I don't even think lowly of them, but I want them to think highly enough of themselves. I want them to respect themselves and to love themselves to where they know that they deserve superior housing. They deserve quality housing. They deserve resources. They deserve to have good in their life. Their children deserve this. Whew, Marcia, you done started something. You got me hooping and hollering. All right. All right. A few more comments, y'all. Marcia, I consider myself to be bringing safe and genuine outside help. I'll be there. I know you coming, Marcia. Taz. Uh-oh, where you at? The ones who saying they're tired of hearing about toxic outsiders is probably toxic themselves. There's toxic insiders too causing division. I agree with that. No one should take that word toxic outsiders. They no one should take that personal. What is that about? If that is a lot of people's experience, that needs to be vetted. But no one should take that personally unless they're in denial about it. But no one should take that personally. Everyone has a right to express their experiences. No name, you talking, sis. Good. Marcia, domestic terrorism too. Just homegrown, toxic, small minded people. I say it again. Clearly, there are some undiagnosed mental health issues here. Whew. Sassy Shay is also a form of manipulation, sometimes guised as support. Miss Anna, love the fact you're saying solutions, just a thought who encourages the encourager. I've worked with social work case manager and still do sometimes. We need space so we can fill our cup back up. Anna, you speaking truth. You're speaking a lot of truth. Okay, Marcia. Ooh. No name. Are you going to talk about the violence you experience as a Muslim? I'm just asking. Um, I don't. Today, will I talk about the violence that I experienced as a Muslim? Can you explain further, no name? Because I don't have any intentions on speaking about being Muslim. I do plan on in the near future explaining Islam, a factual presentation on Islam so everybody can learn about Islam, um, instead of believing in a lot of the stereotypes. And then you will learn that how closely related Islam is to Christianity, specifically in the Old Testament. Okay, well, I'll wait then. I apologize. Don't apologize, no name. Just I didn't know specifically what are you speaking about. So you could be transparent with me and ask whatever you're comfortable with. I don't this is, I'm very transparent. If there is a question that I am uncomfortable with or don't want to ask or excuse me answer, then I won't. The road rage incident. Yeah, I and you know what? I still haven't told my husband about that. I typically don't, well, let me just say this real quick before I move forward. As a Muslim woman, I've been Muslim since 2007. I'm the only Muslim in my family that I was born into, right? Um, and the further along I came in Islam, the longer that I have been in Islam, my dress code changed for me, right? It, um, I'm gonna say it evolved. And so, specifically, my husband and other family members were concerned about me veiling my face. Veiling my face is not obligatory. Some would argue that, but in my how I um how I um what's the word I want to use? Interpret um my modesty requirements, it is not obligatory. However, it was put in my heart to do so. I had a strong push to do it on my own. And so um I have not received a lot of negative feedback, negative experiences. I may get looks, right? But the majority of my social interactions, like if I'm going to the grocery store or whatever, I may get looks, but I get a lot of kindness. I get a lot from the men too, right? But there are certain incidents where I'm like, so I did have a road rage incident like maybe a few weeks ago, and I could feel this driver to my right staring at me, but I don't look into other people's cars for my safety. And when I stopped at the stop light, or excuse me, the red light, the he this truck was getting on the ramp, but he came close to my vehicle where like the gravel hit my vehicle, and he just blew on the horn. He just laid on the horn. So I couldn't understand why he did that, except um, just thinking that I'm obviously Muslim, right? I had another incident years ago, a few years ago, where this white guy was in a pickup truck. It was two of them, and I was covered like this, but my face wasn't veiled. You could see my face, but I had on all black, and I was in a turning lane, and they pulled up beside me and they yelled at me to get out of America. And they took off laughing. Boy, did I want to follow them, but I didn't. And I had another recent issue with that when I was getting off of work coming out the parking structure. And it was a car of white guys, young white guys, and they put up beside me and they were yelling stuff at me. So, but honestly, the majority of my interactions have really been positive. Um, Now, I have seen where people have talked about how I dressed um, on social media, made fun of how I dress, specifically when I go up to participate in public speaking at city council. Um, I have seen negative comments through screenshots that people have sent to me making fun of how I dress. Um, and it's just ignorance. And I've actually requested for people to not send me those screenshots because it's not doing me any good. I'm confident in how I am as a Muslim. I'm confident with how I dress, and I'm overall confident this is who I am. And I'm not ashamed to be who I am. But I guess because I am on this platform that people have negatively referred to me in Islamophobic ways. So, um, if you want to consider that violence, or verbal violence, or a keyboard thug type of violence, then maybe maybe that's it too. I say it's just ignorance and maybe even jealousy, because not everybody can be covered like this and be confident to dress like this. It's too easy to show your body. It's too easy to show your breast and your butt. I'm not knocking anyone, okay? I'm not, that used to be part of my dress code before I reverted to Islam. So I'm not being judgmental, but in this society where women are degraded, it's part of American society for women to be degraded. It's very easy to dress like that, and it is more difficult to dress in the manner that I do and to be confident about it. So, no name. I hope I answered your question, and if not, ask for further explanation, and I'll give it to you. Thank you for your comments. Okay. Um, I am going to continue moving forward to the next, and then I'll go back to the comments in the chat. So, our next example of violence in America is of the healthcare system, medical violence and manipulation. This person right here on the screen is known as the father of modern gynecology, James Marion Sims. He conducted on he conducted medical procedures on enslaved Black women without anesthesia, um, and it is said that he used Black bodies as experiments to experiment on, and in an unethical manner. So this led to like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment and experiment of the cells of Henrietta Lacks. I do believe he also created the instrument for pap smears that women have um, to undergo, right? Um, it was a lot of issues with him that are coming out now, and healthcare, even today, is still an issue. Racism in healthcare, I should say. And I think that's why a lot of Black people, along with other things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, do not trust going to the doctor and would rather not go to the doctor. Um, Let me see. I was about to say something and I forgot. Okay, I'm going to keep moving forward, y'all. If I think of it, I'm going to come back. Margaret Sanger. You have heard even Mickey talking about this on the bump about Margaret Sanger. She was an advocate for women's reproductive rights, and she was also an advocate for the science of eugenics. So, eugenics is the practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations as by sterilization to improve the population's genetic composition. She focused her efforts on minority communities because that was where, due to poverty and limited access to health care, so many people in minority communities had limited access to health care. She did plan to meet civil rights leaders to help promote that. Um, and I want to say, like back in the day, and I would say this still happens to the church now, but like civil rights leaders and black churches were a stop for many people who had specific agendas for the black community, especially back in the day where churches were more considered a safe haven than they are now. She started the first birth control clinic as well. So she believed in the science of eugenics and abortions. And so a lot of Black people do know about her history of racism. And this is not me talking or getting into that debate about abortions. Is it right or is it wrong? No, that's not the subject matter here. It was a push for abortions in the Black community. Okay. Population control. Now, this is something that is ongoing. The maternal mortality rates. And I was really concerned about this when I had my last baby 5 years ago because I had him when I was 39 or 40. 39. I had him when I was 39. So they considered me as having a geriatric pregnancy, and I was high risk. So, a maternal death is defined by the World Health Organization as the death of a woman while pregnant or within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and the site of the pregnancy, from any cause related to or aggravated by the pregnancy or its management, but not from accidental or incidental causes. In 2023, the maternal mortality rate for Black women was 50.3 deaths per 100,000 live births and was significantly higher than rates for whites. Whites were 14.5 deaths, Hispanics 12.4 deaths, and Asians 10.7. And so basically, what I'm trying to say, and from my experience as a Black woman who has birthed 6 children, I have definitely experienced racism um, during while getting prenatal care and during my labor and delivery experience. Especially when I was young, when I was 18 and 20. Those are the ages I had my daughters, when I was 18 years old and when I was 20. And I heard some nasty remarks. Um, Also, it is believed that because of everything that Black women went through during slavery, that we have a high tolerance of pain, and therefore doctors do not believe us and do not take us seriously when we come in with complaints and we're looking for pain management, or they may think that we're just trying to get high off of prescription drugs for pain management. I remember, I'm gonna share this. My last 4 pregnancies were with all of my sons, right? And all of my sons, I was high risk because I had gestational diabetes, and I believe it was my last baby because the first 3 sons was diet control. I did really well with controlling my sugar levels, and but with my last son, I had to inject insulin in me 4 times a day. And so part of my prescription was getting needles from the pharmacy. And the first time I had ran out of needles that the hospital had gave me, and my shipment from like the medical supply store hadn't came in. So I went up to my pharmacy to get some. And the pharmacist, now I'm dressed professionally because I still worked and when I was pregnant. I come in dressed professionally, and he grilled me like I was the crackhead of the year. And why do you need these needles? So I can inject insulin into me. Like it was really a fight. Um, that was a serious thing. I think I experienced that 2 times in regards to buying a bag of needles just so I could take my insulin every day. So, um, let me move on to the next slide. Distrust of the healthcare system. Again, the Tuskegee experiment. And I'm going to say this, y'all: HIV, AIDS, vaccinations, and COVID 19. Those last three, I believe, are intentional. Is warfare on us, on everybody, not just Black people, on everyone. That's my belief. Like I said, do your own research. Some people may feel like how I feel, but do your own research. But there is a serious distrust of the healthcare system, and it's just not coming from the Black community. It is also coming from white people as well. All people, all people. So let's go to the solutions. The solutions to medical violence. I highly suggest everybody to read Medical Apartheid. That's a really good book, and it breaks down what Black Americans have gone through in the past and in the present, the medical experiments that have been used on us. Use your voice, raise questions and concerns with your primary care physician, your health plan, etc. My doctor knows me, my children's doctors know me. I no longer allow my children to be vaccinated. I don't trust it ever since COVID 19. And unfortunately, I'm very fortunate enough to for them to have a doctor that respects and will not pressure me to get my children vaccinated. If I am uncomfortable with something, I won't do it. In my last pregnancy, I nursed my baby for 2 years, and I had got to the age of where I had needed to start getting mammograms. But I talked to my doctor and I said, because I am still nursing my baby, I do not want that radiation in my milk. So they respected that and they held off on sending me the referral to get that mammogram, because mammograms have a lot of radiation in them. So I'm very fortunate and grateful that I do have a primary care physician that is good with the decisions that I need to make for myself. Make formal complaints regarding your negative experiences with hospital, patient advocates, and the like. So if you're in a hospital and you have a negative experience, raise hell. Research the so called medicines they prescribe to you. Research holistic healthcare alternatives. Research the FDA. Connect with holistic healers and your local health food stores. All right, I'm going to stop there and go to the chats. Um, okay. Da 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 da. Oh, okay, the road rage incident. All right, Marcia. The solutions are in Sister Talibah's presentation. Know who you're dealing with, why they're involved, and recognize the ulterior motives. Stay woke. I agree, Marcia. Taz says ignorant a-holes. No Name says I've seen that as well. I think that's in regards to the screenshot someone has sent me. It's okay. You keep it moving, y'all. Oh, Sister Khadijah, that's wild. Yes, ma'am, very wild. You know what? I don't think I've experienced that. I don't think I've ever experienced that amount of disrespect or that amount of Islamophobia before. But anyways, like I said, it's ignorance, and I'm gonna just keep doing me. I don't need to see anything negative that anyone has to say. I just have to stay focused on myself and what I need to do while I'm here. No Name says you are very authentic, sis. Thank you, No Name. Studio gangsters is what I call folks like that. Anna, people perish because of lack of knowledge, and when they don't know, they sometimes choose to hate what they don't know. Okay. Taz says facts, Anna. Yes, no name. Margaret Sanger was the one that started Planned Parenthood. No name. The worst thing that could have ever happened to the black church was when the black church becomes so thirsty that the prophets started to seek out the kings and not the kings seeking out the prophets. Wow, powerful statement. A10 News Media Group, was there a problem in the chat? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know who this is on 18 ask me that, but no, the chat is very appropriate, always is consistently appropriate. Maybe you're talking about when I was asked about religious violence, but no, not in this chat. No, 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 it's peaceful over here. Thank you for asking, 18. Peace to my good sis Jasmine. No name. Sassy, there's a conversation many aren't ready for. Anna, I have a long history in my family. My great grandmother died having my grandmother. Wow. My grandmother almost died having my mother. And my mother almost died. I almost died having my daughter. Wow. Anna, do you know the reason behind that? Word, because that's definitely a pathological situation you got going on. Sassy Shay. Yep, it's just a conversation, 18. No, it wasn't. Responding to the host, but thanks for checking. Oh, okay, that's Taz. Okay, got y'all. All right, y'all. Yes, Sister Khadijah, all great tips. We need to really be mindful of how we go about in medical facilities. And Sister Khadijah, I hope you are feeling better. I I'm gonna just leave it right there. And you would know a lot about that too, Sister Khadijah. Look to connect with a doula. Yes, Anna. Marcia, I am a firm believer in letter writing, emails, and phone calls to speak to a supervisor or manager. I've gone so far as to speak to the hospital administrator for the negative care of a loved one. Yeah, Marcia, in my last pregnancy, I had an issue um in a hospital. I had really good nurses. But when after I had my baby and I was transferred to the other room, I had an issue because I requested I requested for um, people to knock on the door before they came in because I was in the bed this one morning and I was nursing my baby. So my gown was down. And the people that came to drop off the food or pick up the tray, I can't remember what he was doing, but he was a man. He just opened the door, came in and went back out. So I requested, I talked to the head nurse, and she told me that if I put that on the door, to put a sign on the door like that, don't you come in this room. Go ask your dad for ice cream. You got a whole father in there. Sorry, y'all. So now see, where was I at? Oh, and I just requested, can you put a note on the door because I don't want anyone to see me like that. And she got into this whole thing of how about that's discrimination, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think somebody else above her or whatever got a hold of that and they checked her and it was a note on the door to knock before you enter. Just because I want to protect my modesty. This is a wicked society. I That's all I can say. I don't want everybody to see me. So I'm with you, Marcia. You can ask my husband. The brother be like, "Oh, Sister Talibah gonna be the first to write a review, gonna call, gonna cut up in some way, professionally too. I ain't gotta cuss you out, but professionally, I can check you." Anna, oh, so you don't really know, but all of us had issues with our blood. Well, I pray for healing for you, and your daughters. I know you have daughters, so I pray they don't have to experience that, Anna. Thank you for sharing. Marcia, a nurse told my mother to shut up after a surgery, then told my mother she must have been coming out of anesthesia. I had to check her, the charge nurse, and the administrator. They learned, I know they did. Marcia, let me tell you something. Let me tell you the story real quick about my granny's experience when she had her last baby. Her last baby was unfortunately a stillborn, and she was up in age too when she had him. But the baby had passed away as she believed as she was walking into the hospital to have him. And so um she was so out of it because she said the baby was deceased, so the baby wasn't helping her in the labor experience, right? So she had to do all the pushing. So she was so out of it. But after she had the baby and he came out the way he did and he was deceased, the white nurse said, "Good, one less nigga." And my granny said she was so out of it that she just heard her and she couldn't even focus on looking at the nurse. And she heard the other nurses around that nurse was like shushing her to be quiet. So they didn't want my granny to hear what she said about her baby. But the blatant white supremacy in that experience is beyond me. You are that hurt. You are, that's a demon. That is that is beyond me. That consciousness. Whew. Taz, I girl, you know who that was. That was Talib. Want some ice cream. I got the door blocked, but he was knocking and I was ignoring him. But then he started pushing what I got blocking the door out the way. That's why I had to check him. And you got a whole father. So you walked past him to come to me? Child, make that make sense. Marcia, my daughter says that too. My mom is about to make some calls and send some emails. No name. I hope that wasn't my favorite that you were talking to. And was. That was definitely the man of God. Yes, Marcia, sure did. Sure did say that. That's one less nigga. All right, y'all, let's keep it pushing. This is a long one today. All right, domestic/family violence, and it's also becoming popular to label it as intimate partner violence. So this is defined as a pattern of abusive behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control over another in an intimate relationship. Includes physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, and economic abuse, can occur to any member in the family from another family member, and can affect any race, age, sexual orientation, religion, or gender. Okay, let's go to some major statistics, y'all. We're at the end. We're at the end. About 41% of women and 26% of men experience contact sexual violence, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime and reported a related impact. Yes, men can experience domestic violence as well. Over 61 million women and 53 million men have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. When this violence occurs in adolescence, it is called teen dating violence. About 16 million women and 11 million men who reported experiencing intimate partner violence in their lifetime said that they first experienced it before the age of 18. Some individuals and communities experience inequities in in risk for violence due to the social and structural conditions in which they live, work, and play. Youth are at a greater risk, specifically minorities. 1 in 5 homicide victims are killed by an intimate partner. Over half of female homicide victims are killed by a current or former male intimate partner. Survivors can experience mental health problems such as depression and post traumatic stress disorder symptoms. They are at a higher risk for engaging in behaviors such as smoking, binge drinking, and risky sexual activity. Other health concerns experienced include issues with their heart, muscles and bones, digestive, reproductive, and nervous system. Remember what I said about trauma. Okay, we may forget mentally, but our body remembers. Our body holds on to trauma. It traps trauma in our organs, in our cells, in our bones, in our muscles. Okay? The pain that you feel, what trauma is being released, what trauma is being represented in that pain. Our body holds on to trauma. Don't ever forget that. Solutions to domestic violence. Let's start teaching safe and healthy relationship skills to our people. And this is coming from the CDC, y'all. This is not my own personal solutions. Engage, engage influential adults and peers. So a lot of us need mentors. Disrupt the developmental pathways toward partner violence. Create protective environments. Strengthen economic supports for families. Support survivors to increase safety and lessen harms. Another, my own personal one would be that women and men, but women and our youth need to learn how to defend themselves, whether that be, well, I'm gonna say both, um, self-defense with your body, and also learn how to operate a gun. Get your CPL. And I'm gonna go and jump into sex trafficking before I look at the chat, y'all, because sex trafficking to me is related to domestic violence. So the violence of sex trafficking, it is defined as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a person for the purpose of a commercial sex act. It involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to make an adult engage in commercial sex acts. Any commercial sexual activity with a minor, even without force, fraud, or coercion, is considered trafficking. Many victims are women and girls, though men and boys are also impacted. Remember what I said again, boys and men can be impacted. Victims include all races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, citizens, non citizens, and all income levels. Many perpetrators target victims in low income neighborhoods. All right. Solutions to sex trafficking per the CDC. Encourage healthy behaviors in relationships, create safe homes and neighborhoods by addressing factors like economic conditions, housing, and education. Identify and address vulnerabilities during healthcare visits and business profits from trafficking related transactions. That is according to the CDC. I also would say personally, know where your children are at when they're outside playing, have an eye on them. This is not the 80s. I remember as a child in the 80s, my mom used to leave me in a car and go shop. And nothing ever happened to us. Nothing ever happened to me. This ain't the 80s anymore. You can't do that. I specifically remember that. And that's not to say that she was a bad mother or anything. No, that was just the time that we were in. It was safe to do that. No one will bother you. But I'm a no to letting my children go to sleepovers. Even to go visit at someone's house, I prefer to wait until they're older. And still, of course, you just have to keep talking to them because what these children are up against nowadays in comparison to what I went through is just totally different. I'm still clueless about the drugs they have. I'm a graduate of the DARE program. I know the basic drugs, the very basic. All this other stuff that they doing now, I am so clueless. So it's a totally different world out here. Totally different. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna go check the chats. I'm at 2 hours or approaching 2 hours. So my apologies for going over. I'm making up from last week, Sunday. Okay. Yes, it was good to see you yesterday, Taz, at Miss Bev barbecue. That was a really nice time. Yes, Marcia. Thank you, No Name. This has been a very engaging, informative show. I love the revolution. Marcia, I believe someone in the bump chat mentioned that their mother was the abuser. Men are susceptible to, and all abusers should be held accountable, particularly lying Leon. I agree. Mentors are so important, No Name says. I don't trust people who don't have mentors. At No Name, the revolution, Sister Talibah are the truth. I relate to it all. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, No Name. Lady Khadijah, self defense is a must. Also recognizing antisocial behaviors. The best defense is knowing what is offensive. Excellent point. TAT, Truckers Against Trafficking. My company supports this organization. That is great information to know, Taz. My mother used to tell us that if someone bigger than us bullied or abused us, you better pick up a brick. I ain't mad at that, Marcia. Marcia is donating $20. Coffee for A10 News Media Group for allowing the revolution to be televised stream. That is so beautiful of you. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for that. Thank you for that donation. You are so appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. This situation with Leon L. Alamein, um, y'all already heard what I had to say about it. Um, that is very unfortunate. And I see where he is maintaining his innocence. So I kind of feel like, oh, do I talk about it? You know what I mean? Even though it was a warrant out. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I really don't want to say something that I don't know about. Um, but a woman being hit, you out of order. You totally out of order. Anyone being hit, you're out of order. All right, let's go to the next one. Police brutality. We are at the end, y'all. I promise y'all. Again, all of these are examples of America having a culture of violence. Okay. Police brutality in 2024. It has been deemed that 2024 was the deadliest year for police brutality, significant racial disparities in victims. Police have killed at least 1,365 people, average one police killing occurring every 6.44 hours. Blacks are 2.9 times more likely to be killed compared to whites. Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders face the highest disparity, being 7.6 times more likely to be killed. I found this fact interesting, and I have all my references, y'all, as y'all can see on the PowerPoint. New Mexico had the highest per capita rate of police kills at 13.7 per million, while Corpus Christi, Texas saw a 288% increase in its average rate of police kills compared to the previous 11 years. Nearly 65% of the kills occur after a 911 call. There is a trend that police killings happen when people are seeking help from the authorities. I do know, and I've always heard that domestic violence calls for police officers are the most dangerous calls. All right, let's talk about the solutions to police brutality. Teaching officers, and this is according to this article I found on apa.org, and it was published in 2020. So it was three strategies, three solutions that they authorities and organizations, police organizations, were trying out. Teaching officer strategies such as explaining to citizens why they've been stopped and how it will benefit public safety. There were professors at University of South Florida that have designed and begun to deliver training programs on implicit bias to law enforcement agencies around the country. This involves mixed instruction, discussion, and role playing, and aim to help agency reduce high discretion policing and hold officers accountable for bias practices. The last solution that this article talked about was called Project ABLE, or Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement. And this program promotes a culture of peer intervention. It teaches officers to prevent their peers from perpetrating unnecessary violence, which can save both lives and careers. Developed by the New Orleans Police Department in 2014, and it was originally named Ethical Policing is Courageous, or EPIC. So, out of all of that, out of all three of those solutions to police brutality, I like Project Able, and I think that for your peer as a police officer, your partner, right, should automatically check you if you are going too far. And that puts me in the mindset of what we see at the City of Flint City Council meetings. Um, I believe that some of those officers are too scared to speak out because they don't want to receive any backlash from their peers. But somebody has to speak out against it. Um, that is what I saw in my situation. Again, I was not physically hurt, but there was a danger there with one of the main aggressive officers, and it was the same officer that had punched Miss Debbie Clark in the chest and slammed the sister in the hallway on the ground. And I believe he did something else. He did he punch? I can't remember right now. I'm sorry, but anyways, when we got on the elevator, the other two officers, one I asked because I trusted him, Officer Villarreal. He got on because I asked him and I told him I trusted him. But the other officer, he was calm, but it was like they didn't say anything to him. And maybe they didn't want to say anything to check him in front of me, right? Because maybe that would give me power. I don't know. But if something is not right, and if you're a witness to it, speak up. And that should come naturally as a human, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go to the comment section, y'all. I want to hear what y'all have to say. Anna says she works with a group called Modern Slavery. Anna, you're gonna have to explain that one to me. Right, Marcia. Marcia says I would love to hear more about that. Little Mama, I pray we have everyone on the playback get everything they need and more from this beautiful and educational conversation. Peace to my beautiful sister, Sister Talibah. Thank you, Little Mama. Taz, man or woman, keep your hands to yourself. Marcia, Flint Police Department officers trigger me. A10 Flint put together a mashup. I became so angry. It's ridiculous, and I hope something is done soon. I've written emails and posted about Officer Wells and Stillwell. Good for you, Marcia. Yes, thank you for being supportive, Marcia. Okay, y'all. I think we down to the last itty bitty. The last itty bitty example of violence in America, and that is political terrorism upon U.S. citizens. And so, terrorism. Contrary to what we have been taught in this country, terrorism does not look like me. It does not look like a Muslim Arab from overseas. Okay? Terrorism is right in front of your face. Terrorism is the unlawful use of violence or threats to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or government with the goal of furthering political, social, or ideological objectives. It is the state of fear and submission produced by terrorism, and it is an intimidation or coercion by instilling fear. And we definitely reside in a fear based society. When you have to understand that when you submit to fear, you lose your power, you vibrate low, you don't believe in yourself, and you begin to rely on other people outside of you, which is not good. Okay. And that's what they want, that's what this government wants. Political terrorism continued. This is the current status of the Flint City Council, weaponizing resources against the residents of the city, such as the Flint Police Department, holding information and resources from city residents, verbally and or publicly shaming residents that speak out against politicians, politicians not speaking against injustices that occur in the council chambers against colleagues and residents. This all continues to the consistent act of terrorism. I did put the conspiracy theory regarding 9/11 as well as COVID 19 because I know we're not all on the same page. Um, and we don't have to get deep into 9/11 and COVID 19, but those were my personal examples. If you agree, fine. If you don't agree, you know, um, that's fine too. Um, Taz, January 6th. I have a theory about January 6th, and y'all not gonna like that. Y'all know how I think. I'm gonna just say this. When January 6th happened, I remember looking at it and I said, wow, this looks like a low budget film. This looked like a bunch of actors and actresses. What's really going on? That's what I said to myself. But I couldn't say it out loud because a lot of people's hate for Trump, a lot of people's hate for Trump, um, I'll say it like this: emotionalism clouds your judgment. Anybody that dislikes him, that's your business. I mean, I really don't care either way. But I'm at the point where I just question, did that really happen? Is that really true? What are they really trying to hide? A lot of stories that come on the local news, I question that. And it helps me not to get emotionally involved, right? So that's no disrespect to anyone that's watching or in the chat. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion, believe what they want to believe. But that's, and it shouldn't surprise you all. Y'all know how I think and move. I question. It looked like a low budget film to me. And I was like, what they doing? So Trump is an example of domestic terrorists, homegrown, wicked, sadistic. Uh, I could go on and on. Diagnosed. Okay, you're not the only one that I've seen say that. That he's misogynistic, racist, etc. He may very well be. I do believe. I also believe that's a tactic of his, if that makes sense. And I'm just thinking out loud. Um, okay, and maybe Little Mama can help me out here, or Sister Khadijah, because earlier we were talking about Baba Dick Gregory, and in one of Baba Dick Gregory's last lectures or interviews on YouTube, you can see it. He mentions Trump and says that there are two Trumps. one that wears a blue tie and one that wears a red tie. And so I was like, man, I wish he didn't elaborate enough for me to fully understand. I feel like it's a game. And like, especially when he came on the scene the first time campaigning for president, I felt like part of the tactics was to get the white vote. And so you have a lot of white people who are racist that, how do I want to say, kind of like he used them. I wonder that. I wonder that. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong or whatever, but that was in my mind as well. Like, is he just playing along to get what he need, like so many politicians do? Maybe he's really not like that. And you remember, like during that time, like after he became president the first time, it was a lot of um, black churches that were supporting him. And I remember during that time, like I was a Trump hater. You know, yeah, I was a severe Trump hater. And then I just started questioning things because I had never seen the media, the local media, hate a president so much or like try to debunk him at all costs. So I started thinking, what does he know that they don't want him to say? That's just how I think. I don't know if y'all agree or not. We don't have to get into that, but I'm just thinking out loud. That's really how my mind process. Cuz I know to go deeper for me, I can't stay on the surface. Just the way that I perceive this government and perceive this life, I'm like, how deep does the rabbit hole go? So, yeah, I could see some of this. Marcia, is some things that I definitely don't agree with. Just like, I don't know if that bill passed or not. In regards, he did that executive order that, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, about if a police officer is killed, then a person gets an automatic life sentence. I don't agree with that because he hasn't come out with any executive orders against police brutality. So, my mind just think all over. Sister Khadija said that's a whole word, not even a well thought out production. Um, yes, red tie and blue tie. So, little mama, you know what I'm talking about. But for me, Baba Dick Gregory didn't go deep enough. And I was like, it's two Trumps. So if anybody knows something deeper about that, please share it because I would really like to know. Um, Khadijah saw the same thing. Little mama, that's what Baba Dick Gregory always said is a game. Yeah. Peace, Jazzy Melody. Thank you for coming in. Yes, he mentioned why he ran Republican on the Oprah show in the 1990s. I have to watch that. Marcia, I hear you though. He said if he were to run for office, it would be as a Republican because they're so stupid. I think he thought they were gullible and they're proven it daily, afraid to speak up. Okay. All right, y'all. Yes, Marcia, you have to read Dick Gregory's books, all of them. Just know he will trigger your thoughts and actions going forward. I have never read a Dick Gregory book ever. So I need to get on that. I need to get on reading a lot of books. So, oh, I think I got one more slide. Oh, shoot. Solutions to political terrorism. Child, almost done, y'all. I love y'all so much. Okay, so I say standing firmly as a collective against the injustices of government, submit complaints of corruption and terrorism to federal agencies, consistently notify all forms of news media of what's going on, vote with a conscience, get rid of the friends, brothers, in laws mentality. Adhere to your spirituality, religious, metaphysical beliefs regarding fighting against corruption. So basically, in my opinion, these are all my personal solutions to political terrorism in our community. And I really feel like our community, wherever you are, right, in this country or in this world, you need to operate as a collective, but each, it should be different methods within a collective. Like, subhanallah, excuse me, this group does this group does that, subhanallah, excuse me, this group does this. Kind of like how the U.S. military has a army base, it has the navy, it has the um who are the killers, you know, it has the different branches. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that's how we need to operate when we're going up against corruption, because this corruption is so structured and organized and empowered, right? Because it has money, it's sitting on a pot of gold. And in order to successfully fight it, you have to um, attack it on all levels, even on a spiritual level. So many of us talk about spiritual warfare. Well, you can't fight spiritual warfare with your gun or with a knife or with your fist. You can't windmill your enemy, and your enemy is coming at you on a spiritual level, attacking you on a spiritual level. Man, a lot of you all are Christians or are comfortable with Christianity, comfortable with the Bible. You need to start using it. And you need to, it's a lot of wisdom in the Bible. So, what does your Bible say about fighting against spiritual warfare or fighting against the enemy? And I'm not talking about turn the other cheek. Like, what does your Bible say? What prayers do you need to be saying every day, multiple times a day? How do you need to protect yourself and your family and your household and your possessions? And you need to do that consistently, fasting consistently. Same for the Muslims. I'm just saying, if you say you are something, do it. Shoot. It's easy to put on a costume. It's easy for me to put on a hijab. It's easy for me to veil my face. It's easy for me to dress up in my modest clothes. But if I'm not doing stuff that I'm supposed to be doing as a Muslim, then I just got on a costume. Truth be told, if my heart is not changing, I just got on a costume. If I'm not elevating, I just got on a costume. Okay, so we need to fight on all levels. Voting too. Vote with a conscience. Don't just vote because that's your friend. Don't just vote because that person is black. Don't just vote because you recognize somebody's name. Vote with a conscience. Vet that person. Vet them hard too, because your vote is needed. Your vote is valuable. You are valuable. And it's not just voting that we need to do. We need to fight this corruption on all levels. What are you guys' solutions to political terrorism? Okay. Sassy Shay, I wondered the same thing. I wish Barbara Gregory would have explained it more. Right. Yes, Taz. I came with a lot of information today. I hope y'all don't mind. Anna, because I live in the nation's capital, not the news that tells me what's going on. I'm living it and I'm seeing it. DC is feeling the rapture of this new person in charge. There's a lot going on. Thank you for that, Anna. I'm a huge lover of Dick Gregory. He is one of my all time. He was talking about the president always having his double. Most presidents were known to have them. Oh, okay. You're going to have to explain that more. Marcia, pray without ceasing. I love that. Prayer is a strategy that leads to wisdom. Taz, turning the other cheek is only effective if both parties are genuinely on the same page. Good point, Taz. Marcia, and out on the whole armor of God. He puts weapons in your arsenal that you don't even know you have. Pray for discernment in using them. Facts. All right, y'all. That is it. I'm going to end y'all with a reminder. Out of all the traumas that I went over, the different types of violence, and honestly, I don't even think that I cover all the violence in America. I didn't do school violence. I didn't do religious violence. Um, shoot, I didn't do every bit of violence, but it was enough to be overwhelming, right? So I just want to remind you what I've been schooling you all from the very beginning. There are three types of traumas: acute trauma from a single incident, chronic trauma, repeated and prolonged, complex trauma, exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events. Most of us, if not all of us, are consistently experiencing chronic trauma and complex trauma. And that's a fact. Do anyone want to call in? It's 8:35. Anyone want to call in before I end the live? My apologies for this. I went over. It was a lot of information, but I enjoyed putting this presentation together for you all. Um, we need this information, and we need to stay in the practice of being critical thinkers in our community. And we need to really focus on solutions. Don't give up on the solutions. I don't care how bad it may seem. Yeah, no problem, Salty Chef. Thank you, Sister Talibah, for another great one. No Name, this was an amazing show. Thank you, No Name. Marcia, these topics need to be discussed inside the home as well. There are traumas we all have that are buried. Go get them and address them accordingly. Thank you, Sister Taliba. Yes, ma'am. And again, as a reminder, traumas are they a beast to deal with. I say they a bitch. Thank you, Sister Khadijah. Yes, I think you will get a tidbit this week. No name. Whenever the spirit hits me, I will do a tidbit. Um, Sassy Shay. Now we see what Mickey and Winters was talking about you. Good, informative, and resourceful show, sis. Keep up the great work. Yes, ma'am, Marcia. Thank you for being a supporter of the show. Thank all of you. I'm gonna give you all a few seconds to decide if you want to call in and add your um use your throat chakra to purify our space, to cleanse, to give out solutions, and to give out reminders. I appreciate everyone for being open minded. And I appreciate everyone for being available to this show. Thank you for your support. And thank you for being mature enough to not be argumentative and to like listen when we are at a difference of opinion. That is very much appreciative. If no one wants to call in, I'm gonna go ahead and end the show. 810-371-5812. And I did almost 2 hours and 30 minutes. I don't like going over an hour and a half, but we making up for lost time on Sunday. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and end the show. Thank you everyone for the support. Oh, you like the new time? Thank you for saying that, Taz. Taz also said, good, informative, and resourceful show, sis. Keep up the great work. Um, 6 o'clock, y'all let me know how y'all feel. I changed it from 12 to 6 because my children and I are involved. We enrolled into Arabic classes at one of the local masjids. So, you know, that's very important to me, so that we can read the Quran in Arabic. So I hope everyone pays attention to the solutions. They are not an exhaustive list, but you have to start somewhere. That's right. Taz says, yes, have a great start to a new week. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate you. Thank you for participating. I appreciate all of your feedback and all of your input. No name. It's no need to complain if you don't possess the necessary tools to lead the charge for change. Thank you, sis. Thank you, no name. Thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all. I love you all. Peace. Have a good night. And remember to protect yourselves. And I love you all. I'll see you maybe sometime during the week for a tidbit. And I'll see you next week, Sunday at 6 p.m. Peace, y'all. Have a good night.